Welcome to the Chamber's Transportation First event featuring a conversation on the state of the highways and bridges in Massachusetts. I'm Jim Rooney, President and CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce. And at the Chamber, we pride ourselves at continuing to serve as the leading convener of the region's business community. This afternoon, our Transportation First event features a presentation from MassDOT Highway Administrator Jonathan Gulliver. And then I and Diana Szynal will moderate a discussion. Diana is the president and CEO of the Springfield Chamber of Commerce, and in the spirit of understanding that mobility and transportation throughout the Commonwealth affect the economic growth and vitality of all of Massachusetts. Diana and I have partnered on this and other issues affecting the conduct of business and commerce in the Commonwealth. So Diana, thank you for making the trek in from Springfield to join us today. Our Transportation First series is one of the innovative ways that we're convening government and business leaders to move us forward on strategies and solutions. Our view is that we urgently need to create a 21st century world-class transportation system, and this requires policymakers, employers, residents to recognize transportation as the public good that it is. And our belief is that by putting transportation first, the Commonwealth will be in a better position to solve the many other public policy issues that are on our minds these days, whether it's housing, economic mobility, climate goals, economic development. If you think about the ways of solving all of those problems, transportation and mobility is always part of the equation. So that's why we branded this Transportation First, because by solving and dealing with our mobility and transportation issues, we will contribute to the solutions of those many other public policy issues. I want to thank our sponsors for Transportation First, State Street. Special thank you to Ron O'Hanley, CEO of State Street and former chairman of the board of the Greater Boston Chamber, for his continued leadership in transportation policy. With State Street's important partnership, we're able to make these events free and open to the public and offer these both live and in person as we are, but also with a virtual audience. And these sessions are also recorded and will be up on our YouTube and website page for people's consumption at their own leisure later. With that, I'm pleased to further introduce today's speakers. I'll start with Jonathan. Jonathan was appointed as MassDOT State Highway Administrator by Governor Baker in 2017 and reappointed by Governor Healy in 2023. I believe Jonathan is the longest serving highway administrator. And it says something when you have governors of different parties who have agreed to ask you to continue to serve in a role that you're doing something right. As highway administrator, I'm sure Jonathan will get into this. The expanse of what he oversees is just quite impressive, but it includes nearly 2,800 employees in MassDOT's highway division. Jonathan brings over 2 decades of experience, beginning as a construction inspector in the highway department. Next, adding a little bit to Diana's introduction, who will join me for the conversation in a little while. Diana Szynal has more than 20 years of state, local government, community experience. Diana has a deep understanding of the legislative process, workforce advocacy, and how government can work to benefit businesses of all sizes. Prior to serving as the Chamber President in Springfield, Diana served as Executive Director of the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce. And I think, Diana, you still find time to serve on the Hatfield.
Just wrapped up.
Just wrapped up. 3 or 4 terms. 4 select board. Yeah, I don't know how you do that. Anyway, but also impressive is Diana spent 16 years as the district director for the late state representative Peter Cocott. I don't know if many of you know Peter, but Peter was one of the people I most respected in the House of Representatives during his service. Diana in the Springfield Chamber are members of a Massachusetts policy network working closely with the Boston Chamber, Springfield, Cape Cod, chambers across the Commonwealth that join forces to advocate on behalf of business and commerce in the different regions of the state. So we've got two great speakers. Diana, thank you again for being here. And with that, we'll introduce Jonathan, who will give us an overview on the state of the highways and bridges in the Commonwealth, and then Diana and I will have a conversation. So Jonathan, take it away.
All right. Thank you very much, Jim. And, as you heard Jim say, I've been in this job a long time. And, I want to point out, I couldn't do the job as well as I do without the team that I have. We have a lot of great people on our team. And, I have the benefit of working with really good people, having really great bosses like Tom Tillen over the years, others like Louisa Paiwanska, who's actually back in our team now, and so I've really benefited from some great people over the years that I'm really thankful for. All right, they didn't teach me PowerPoint skills though, so I'm trying. There we go. So this is a really transportation friendly crowd, and I'm gonna preface it by saying this. I usually don't have these agenda slides. My comms team, he's in here somewhere. I'm not going to point him out. There he is in the back. Marshall, when we did our dry run, he had said, you need to put an agenda slide in. So you'll see this repeated. I believe his quote was, "Not everybody likes transportation as much as you do. And if they have to endure your speech, they want to see how much time is left." So hopefully that's not the case. But to get right into things, and let's see if I can get the button again. There we go. It's a double click. It's always worth talking about where MassDOT is, where we came from, and to really understand it. So this was born out of a lot of work by a number of people in this room, actually, to really try to integrate transportation across Massachusetts. At the time before MassDOT was created, especially the surface transportation, the highway stuff was spread across multiple agencies. You can see here in bold, and MassDOT brought all of them together so that we were a true multimodal agency. And it's been an unbelievable experience to have lived through that and to continue to see how we grow. We do have obviously a big, here we go, a big breadth and depth for what we do. And I think it's always important for people to understand it, because I don't think people really appreciate it. They see us a lot for the projects we do. They don't necessarily see us for all the other things that we have, but we have a lot of stuff in our portfolio. 5,000 bridges, 10,000 miles of highway, the most extensive highway tunnel system in the United States. That's stuff that we manage every single day with our great staff. We also have a $2 billion capital program that and supported by almost 3,000 staff. And again, the majority of those, the biggest part of our program is civil engineers. And this investment in the Commonwealth, that $2 billion, is really important. And those of you who are around for the Accelerated Bridge Program knows that programs like that really drive our economy. And when you look at what we support, for every $1 billion, this is estimated by USDOT, for every $1 billion that you invest in transportation infrastructure, it supports about 13,000 jobs. Now that's not direct jobs, but that's still, in total, our program is about 26,000 jobs are supported every year when we do a $2 billion a year program. And that's been something we've been sustaining now for the last couple of years. Oh, I went backwards, but you'll have to trust me when I have when I tell you that there was a nice slide of the state that shows you how many cities and towns we touch. Literally all of them. We have, when you're talking about our program, Chapter 90 especially, we serve as like the technical advisors, and we work with cities and towns on all of their transportation projects as well as our own. We had 650 different job sites last year in active construction projects. So again, we advertise about $2 billion a year. We have about $6 billion in active construction at any given time under contract. So it's a very big program. Something I want to point out with this slide, though, is that everything I just talked about was our capital program, and that's something that we are most visible for. But our operations, this is our day-to-day stuff, is perhaps one of the most important things of what we do. This is, again, we're known as builders, but we have first responders, we have planners, we have public servants of all flavors that help operate our highways and keep people safe. And our work doesn't pause when the construction season ends. We have snow and ice. We have regular ongoing maintenance that we do. And whether it's a snowstorm, a hurricane, or a flood, something that our team is responsible for is that we are literally the first responders working with MEMA to be on site for some of these major cleanups that cities and towns may have. And I like to tell people this is that if you're a typical DPW across the state, if you're lucky, you never have to deal with one of these emergencies. You can maybe go your whole career without dealing with something huge that's going to impact your town and cause major problems. We deal with them every single day. So if you're a DPW director, you get hit by a tornado, a major flood, a fire, brush fires, whatever it may be, we're in a position to mobilize our resources and help you out and get you back up and running. And again, I think that's a really important part of what we do. All right, so it skipped over a couple of slides here. Hopefully this is not going to be a theme, but I'm gonna roll with it. So we have a lot of disruptors that are impacting our program. We really try to be the best at what we can do with the projects that we put out, make sure we're reflecting the needs of the Commonwealth's transportation when it comes to equity, resiliency, efficiency, whatever it may be. And that means though that we have to deal with, there we go, came back. That means that we have to deal with a lot of different things. And the truth is that the systems that we have today. All right, let me get back to the next one. Oh, this was the map I was talking about earlier. Almost every city in town. One more. All right, back to safety. So, the truth is, a lot of the stuff we deal with, though, is at a critical juncture. When you're dealing with roads, rails, bridges, they're all aging. These are all things that were built, the big bulk of them were built 75 years ago during the Eisenhower administration. And the entire country, not just Massachusetts, but we are one of the first ones to have a highway department, and means that we're also have the oldest infrastructure in the country. And we have a lot of disruptors right now that are challenging our program. So with safety, this is something I want you to look at the numbers on here. The graphs tell the same story. When you consider where we are with safety, we in Massachusetts and across the United States, we're in a real crisis when it comes to highway safety. We on average lose about one person a day on the roadways in Massachusetts. And I want to point out we are the safest state in the nation, and it's still about one person a day. And that's an improvement from where we were a few years ago. A few years ago, we peaked during the pandemic. We were up close to 400 people for that year. And, something that I ask people, our staff included, all the time is that an acceptable number to be getting down to 350 or 330 over the last couple of years? And, it's a good number, 20% drop roughly. And that's a good target to hit. But, what I ask people all the time when we talk about these numbers is, what if that number was somebody from your family? What if it's a close friend? What if it's a close relative? Really quickly, that doesn't become an acceptable number. And the reality is that 0 deaths is what we're striving for. We don't want any deaths or serious injuries on our highways and roadways across Massachusetts, period. And I think that's an important thing to remember. And it's something that's critical, that we're talking about people, not numbers. Something we do to try to manage this, by the way, is we have a standing meeting amongst our key staff. We go through fatalities once a week. From the prior week, we try to identify trends. We see if there was some issues that may have to do with engineering, or if there was some other issues, and we work to try to address those. That is something that comes out of our safe systems approach and our highway safety plan. There we go. Our highway safety plan from that we issued a little bit more than a year ago. And this is something that when you look at what's in our plan, it's a series of important strategies to really improve safety on our roadways. It's the way we design things, it's the way we operate them, and so on. And as you look at one of the biggest things that we adopted is something called safe systems. And you know, those of you involved in engineering in the room, especially the traffic side, know that the traffic engineers typically live by standards. You have a certain size intersection, it needs to do a certain thing. It has a radius, you know, all the typical things that you do. Safe systems leans on that approach, leans on those standards, of course, but it acknowledges that not everything is a traffic model. People are going to drive cars, and people are people, and they're going to behave differently than we expect. So we anticipate upfront in our designs, what are the things that people may do here? How do we need to approach this proactively to ensure that we have things that are safe? So this includes doing a lot of different things. And here's right up here on the slide is a couple of them that we're doing. The peanut roundabout that you see here on the left was implemented in Worcester at Kelly Square just a couple of years ago. This is right outside their new ballpark for the Worcester, for the Woo Sox. It's award-winning design, and it's something our team worked closely with VHB on to get through, and we did it in a hurry. And the other one that we see here on the right is one of our locations that we have our wrong way driver system. So if you go up that ramp going the wrong way, you get an alarm now, and it comes back to us. Roundabouts, for a moment, I can say are a really tough sell. It's something that we have challenges with when we go into communities. They often think of rotaries, and rotaries and roundabouts are different. One of them, roundabout here, you can see much more structured than your typical rotary, where it's more of a free-for-all. They're much safer. Again, not everybody likes them. You know, I often tell people my mother has one right outside her house. I get calls from her all the time. She hates it. So it's you know, we do our best though to really make sure that we put what we need to in place, and sometimes it is over the objections of the communities. Everybody's favorite topic, congestion. So congestion continues to be rising. I think we were asked for a couple of years after the pandemic, when's traffic coming back? And we haven't been asked that in quite a while. I think it's clear it's back. And it's something that does a lot of different things for us that we need to be on top of. You know, it impacts safety, it impacts the quality of life, it impacts the economy. So it's something that we work really hard on. It's also exacerbated by special events. We have a lot going on at any given time. Next year is especially tough. We have 3 big events happening all during the summer. This is something where we're working up a messaging strategy around right now. But the bottom line is, if you can work remote during some of these key days, we're going to recommend it. Something that we do when we try to manage traffic and we manage congestion is first thing is to understand it. That last slide you saw was an old tube counter. We have them everywhere. This is what we do now. This is the new way of doing things. We still use those tube counters, and again, they're everywhere across our highway systems when we need to get accurate data. But we now are drawing from numerous sources, and this is just a bit of it. This was something that 20 years ago we didn't have any of this data, but we now use a lot of different data sources to better understand what our highway system needs and how it's reacting, and to understand better how to manage things. So we use advanced analytics. Starts with again some of that data aggregation. We have somebody in our office is our designated traffic czar. I think many of you in the room on the engineering side know Neil Boudreau. Neil has a whole team behind him, and what they do is they work with this data every day. This is real-time data to make decisions about ongoing projects, ongoing maintenance efforts, permits that are coming up. And they produce annually and keep this updated throughout the year, this hotspot map that really looks at where do we have problems in the system because of upcoming work. And they make sure that we are doing everything on our end to mitigate it. So this map represents all the active construction that MassDOT has going, as well as construction by the MBTA, as well as construction by MWRA, DCR, any major permit job by cities and towns, et cetera. And where we can make changes, and we can make intelligent changes about the way we both approach construction and the way that we sequence it, it really makes a huge difference. And it leads to approaches like we've had in the last couple of years on some of our projects with things such as rapid replacements and such. So it's a big tool in our toolbox that we really use frequently. The other thing we use is a system called TSMO. And for those of you not in the traffic realm, TSMO stands for Transportation Systems Management and Operations. This is something that our team uses to help manage the system. So it involves things like quick clearance of accidents and making sure that work zones are set up in a way that are efficient. So using all the tools at our disposal to really make sure that people keep moving. Perhaps though the biggest challenge that we have had over the last decade is really climate change. And climate is changing. There's just a quick map of how things have been looking as far as the temperature goes, and it's continuing to change. And I don't have to tell too many people in this room. Tom lived 2015 with the snow. I did as well in a different role, and that was just the beginning. Since that time, our winters are not as intense throughout, but we have had a number of blizzards. Those storms are very intense that we do get. And we have other things we're dealing with too, whether it's flooding that we get now all over the state and country, by the way. This is not unique to Massachusetts. Or it's the first rainfall we've had in a little bit more than a month now. And as a result of that, we have wildfires in Massachusetts, something that were a rare occurrence before, happens with far more frequency now. And that's something we have to manage around, is to really make sure that we're doing what we can on our highway system and our infrastructure across MassDOT to make sure that it's resilient. This is a picture from Leominster just a couple of years ago, 10 inches of rain in under 6 hours. Just a stunning amount of rain. We had highways closed, we had rail lines washed out. We had a whole lot of bad things happen that really we had to work hard to correct. And this, again, is a good example where our team and the MBTA in this case showed up first on site. We did what we could to get everything up and running really quickly. And really within a couple of days, that city was up and running again. So there's a lot of things, a lot of levers that we can pull as an industry to make things work better. And one of them is recognizing that we in transportation are part of the problem and that there's things that we can do to make it better. So whether it's electrifying our fleet or adding solar panels where we can on our system over park and rides, or really working towards using sustainable materials, things like low embodied carbon concrete. These are the things that we need to do to make sure that our program is as environmentally friendly as possible and that we're not part of the problem and that we can help fix it. All right, aging infrastructure is also one of our biggest current problems. If again, I mentioned earlier, we have a really old system here in Massachusetts. In fact, our bridge system is the oldest in the United States. Hawaii, weirdly enough, is not too far behind us, but that's the closest one. We have a very old bridge system. It's in part because we have a lot of historic bridges that we've preserved, but there's again we went through a long time without a whole lot of investment into our infrastructure as a whole. So we're doing a lot of catch up with that. This is something the governor is thankfully both very aware of and doing something about, and something I'll be talking about in a few moments when we talk about our capital plan. But when you look at what we've had to do, this is a good slide that reflects the scope of the problem. We have about 34 bridges closed right now. Those numbers are a little bit small. And that's a 27% increase over the last decade. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it is because we're starting to see the age of these smaller bridges that we did not address during the accelerated bridge program. So a lot of these bridges right now are town-owned bridges that not a lot of maintenance was done on, and we're working with them now to get them open again. But we also have been posting more bridges, not as many posting as closed, but that's been a 4% increase. The reason why it's not more is this shoring number on the bottom is something that we do a lot more on our end, proactive maintenance to do whatever we can to keep those bridges open. But it's again, this is a challenge. There's a lot of good work going on to really try to do what we can, but it is challenging because of the age of this infrastructure. It's not getting any younger and it's continuing to deteriorate. I like to think that some of the stuff that we do that really helps address the problem is through innovation. It's something that we are very proud of at MassDOT. We have a lot of different things that we do that's innovative already. But I think perhaps something that that you see here is we have now annually for several years now held the Innovation Conference. And this conference brings together professionals from all across the country. It's the biggest conference of its kind in New England. And we really do a lot of work with our partners to see where they're doing things better than us and sharing ideas and bringing those ideas to bear on our system. And it's something I think is incredibly important. And it's something that we do throughout our program. And that includes some of you may have seen or seen me on talking on, I think it was Chronicle not too long ago, about our AI use. This is something where I think that we have a real opportunity with AI to have to use that huge data set that we have now from those multiple sources and really put it to use, really leverage AI in a way that is going to make our jobs easier. So we have, you can see here, this is called HECA architecture. I'm not even going to pretend to know what all of this means on here. This is something our IT team put together, but it looks technical and cool, so I figured I'd put it up here. But what HECA is, that's the Highway Engineer Knowledge Assistant. Now, this is a chatbot that's unique to MassDOT. We had it built for MassDOT through a partnership with Northeastern. And what this does is it helps us sift through the huge amount of standards that we have, that the feds have, the permitting process, everything. And what's great about this is that when we look at doing the manual, if you were a project manager and you had to start pulling together and initiating a project and pulling together all those SOPs, you were in for some research. This is instant. This you say, I'm building this bridge. It's about this long. It's over this kind of water. It will spit out every relevant SOP and regulation and permit that you're going to need all in one place, gives you the links to it. So now we can cut down that time tremendously. We estimated we can actually get close to a 75% increase in productivity for that initiation stage than we used to. It's something that we're pretty proud of. Something else that we have been doing way before Doge was a buzzword in DC, we started a process of institutionalizing process improvements within MassDOT. We use an agile process, which means that we use work groups from across the agency that gets together, identifies problems, works on it in bite-sized pieces, and then puts those improvements into place, does the implementation. It's something that's been very, very successful. We continue to do it on a lot of different ones. This number here is perhaps the most successful one we have. We had a challenge with when projects got to the advertisement stage, that there was a long lead time before we could actually let those projects out with an NTP. Our team really identified the problem, made some big changes. And as you can see, this was a few years ago. This started in 2018 when we started those changes. We have held steady since then. Our goal was 120 days. We got down closer to 90, and we've maintained it there. There's still more work to do, but it's something that, again, has been a really helpful process. And it really helps bring a lot of our younger staff along too. You know, as Jim said, I started off as a construction inspector, and I have always looked at it from a standpoint of what would I be thinking about things right now. And when you're in a different position making policies, it's hard to understand always. The policies sound great when I'm writing them up and sending them out, but for that construction inspector somewhere in the system, they're thinking, who came up with this stupid idea? And I want to make sure that I'm not putting those out. So one of the things we really do is look for those staff that are new to the program or are actually boots on the ground, and ask them, get their opinion on, hey, how are we doing? What's this look like? You know, how can we change this to make your life better and more efficient? And that's that process improvement leads to. So it's really a great program that we're really proud of. All right, so let's talk about our capital program. You know, all the innovations in the world, they don't mean a lot if we can't really improve people's lives. And that's where our capital program comes into play, making sure that we are investing in the right things, the things that people need, and that we're designing our projects in the right way to get them what they want. And thanks to Governor Healy, our program has grown dramatically over the last couple of years. And thanks to the work that was done by the Transportation Finance Commission over the last couple of years, we are doing some new things now in this last year that is really going to pay dividends. I'm very confident in the program, which I'll get into in a moment. So the funding and fair share has been amazing for us on the MassDOT side. It has given it. There's a couple of reasons why it's so important. First off, it was a much needed influx of investment that really is we're putting to good use for many of those bridges and highways and other issues that we have to tackle. The other thing that's great about Fair Share, this is because it's a state funded program, we can be more efficient and we can be faster in putting some of this money out. We don't have to have all the strings attached that we do with our federal highway money that slows things down. So this is something that we have a program that is currently going through the approval process. I'm going to get into it in a moment, but we expect it to be largely something like what you see here on the screen right now that we'll be able to put in place and do some things really quickly. It's something that we're really excited about. It allows us to do a lot of new projects that have been on periphery and make a big change, especially on those local communities, which is what we've been prioritizing across the state. So big thing that we did this year that again came out of that work that the great work that the Finance Commission did is a bonding approach to Fair Share. So this means it's a multi-year approach. It includes $300 million a year from the Chapter 90 program, which has been very important, not shown here, but also this $1.85 billion is available as a result of that bonding approach against Fair Share. So it's a new revenue source and new source of investment for us that goes straight into transportation with this one, and it really allows us to address some big things, whether it's a small bridge or a culvert or other issues that we've been trying to tackle. On bridges, and especially for our friends in the consultant community that are in the room here, a new program that we are currently working on is that we're going to be doing a pilot on this coming year is really leveraging prefabricated bridges for those smaller community bridges across the state where they have closed bridges right now. This is something that has been a challenge to implement in a lot of our projects that have federal funding. But because this is Fair Share funding, we have more flexibility now. We don't have to meet some of those standards that the feds require of us. And I haven't talked to a town administrator, mayor, or what have you that doesn't want that bridge opened as quickly as possible. And if it means that you might have one with slightly less lifespan in it, they're okay with that. And we are too. There's a time value in these things that to get these bridges open quickly is extremely important. So that's a program that we're going to be launching this year. On the culvert side, culverts have been a huge challenge for us. And I think, again, looking back at what that flooding that you had in Leominster just a couple of years ago, that's a great example of the need to really address all the culverts we have across Massachusetts. And this is a daunting task. $200 million is a great start, but we have more than 20,000 culverts that are both owned by the state and by cities and towns. I'm confident that most of those are undersized. They were built at a different time frame. They need to be addressed, and this program is going to help address it. Something that we're working with EEA on to really make sure that we're considering all the issues, not just the transportation side, but resource areas, and it's really, I think, going to help quite a bit over the next 10 years. It's something that is very much needed. Hopefully, we're going to be able to put more funding into this in the next few years because I'm sure this is going to be a popular program. Another one that is always a surprise to people is unpaved roads. This is something we don't have a program for in Massachusetts. Most of New England does. We do not. There's a lot of unpaved roads in Massachusetts that you can see here. The dark blue is where they have the most of them, but it's all over the place. You have it's dominated by Berkshires, but there's also some down in Cape Cod, especially on the islands, and there's some up on the North Shore as well. Outside of the Metro Boston area, this is a common problem for many cities and towns. And this is a program put in place by Rep. Blay that she added into legislation. We worked with her pretty closely on this for the last couple of years to come up with it. And again, this is going to institute best practices and provide a lot of funding for those cities and towns so that they can do what they need to make those roads safe and also preserve the character of their roadways. So now let's talk a little bit about our major projects. So first off, Newton Weston. This was, if you're driving on the Turnpike regularly, you've driven by this. This is the one that was in the news quite a bit early in the spring that we did some rapid replacement work on. This project's been going great. We're bringing a big student group out there in a few weeks with the moles, and it's just been a tremendous project. We have the new bridge in right now, and this picture's actually a little bit dated. It's only a few weeks old, but that center span bridge is gone. There's only a couple of beams left in it that's been steadily being demolished. That's where the new bridge is going to be built. And something that the reason I like this slide, because it's so obvious that we went through a lot of effort to make sure that we were not impacting traffic during construction. This is a massive job, huge interchange overhaul, and traffic interruption has been really kept to a minimum. That's something we're really proud of. And you can see the way we're doing it by building that offset bridge and then demolishing the center span and moving the traffic over again. We're not causing a lot of disruption. There is again, I drive this every day. There's a slowdown because people are really interested in all the work that's going on, but it's not caused by taking lanes and such. Another project. This was the Bill Russell Bridge. It actually had the ribbon cutting on it this morning. Really iconic structure that we worked closely with the City of Boston on. City of Boston design, MassDOT construction. Just again, ribbon cut was cut on it this morning. This is we love doing these kinds of projects. This is going to be featured on every Celtics game for forever, and it's something that our team is particularly proud of when we can do something like this. So another project that's coming up, and this is also for you regular drivers of the Turnpike. This is the Boca Overpass. If you're not familiar with it, it's the ramp basically that goes to Fenway if you're coming off of the river roads on the Storer Drive. So the project, we have multi phases of this. The next one coming up is this one down on the bottom part. This is the portion that goes over the Turnpike. We're doing a lot of work here to improve and modernize it. And this means that we're adding modern facilities. We're doing a lot of work around the bridge to reconnect the community as well. So it's not just bridge work. We worked really closely with neighborhood advocates, with the city and others to really deliver a great project. This is the first stage. This is a great one, but the next one up here is the one that I'm really excited about. This is the second side of the bridge where we have a bridge replacement that's necessary because it's structurally deficient. And the team came up with just frankly a fantastic design. This is what it looks like now. And I will tell you again, this is an ugly structure. If you've ever taken it, it's not efficient. It's something that is hard to get through. I think probably the most damaging thing is that it really separates the community from the river. What they came up with for a design, it's an amazing design. This is what happens when you have really good, innovative engineers working together cooperatively. We had a great community group that's been working along with us every step of the way, and this does so much stuff. It daylights the muddy river for the first time in decades. It reconnects the Emerald Necklace Park system. Something that was cut off when they built Storer Drive more than 75 years ago. So this accomplishes so much all in one project. It's amazing. This project here is going to be coming on the tail end of that first phase. So this one's getting ready right now for advertisement in the next year or two. And again, this one is probably my favorite project in our entire portfolio right now. It's really something we're looking forward to, and again, transformative. So finally, I want to talk about our mega projects. These are the ones that are often what people are most interested in. So as I mentioned earlier, Louisa Piewanski, former highway administrator herself, we brought her back just in this past year. And she is our new mega projects executive director. And what her role is pushing these big projects forward. And we have two big ones in the pipeline and a lot of work going on with both of them. So first off, Cape Cod Bridges. Like the Alston one that I'll talk about in a moment, which is unfortunately not in as good as a place as this one. It's about a $2 billion project. This is only for the first bridge. There's going to be two bridges. We're working right now on securing funding for the second one, but the Sagamore is the first one in the pipeline, and it's a new iconic design. This is a tide network arch type of bridge. Just as a fun fact, there's a bridge in Haverhill on 495, identical design, and that was this is a design by HNTB. The first bridge that was there was also the identical design to the original Cape Cod bridges. So we're kind of repeating the pattern here. But Tide Network Arch, we're right now in the permit process. We just filed permits a few weeks ago. We expect to put out letters of interest and start the procurement process itself next spring. So more to come on that, but things are moving in the right direction. Now the Alston project, this one has been far more challenging. We had a grant secured, we were ready to go, design was underway, and then the grant, which was called Reconnecting Communities, $335 million was pulled by the Trump administration. And we have challenges right now, and it's something we're working hard on, is make sure we retain all of our federal dollars. That one was one that we were very disappointed to lose, and is continuing to cause us certainly a lot of headaches. So something though that we're trying to do is maintain momentum. There's a lot of opportunity on this project. It's again another transformative project for the neighborhood in this area. We are going to be moving forward with a study to really help identify where we have opportunities to keep momentum going. And I expect that we're going to have several smaller projects. We have the Cambridge Street Bridge that's on the bottom part of this page. We also have the rail bridge, the Grand Junction Railroad, that's to the north upper part of this page. Those both need work. We think that we have some opportunities to move those ahead independently of the larger project. Again, really maintain momentum and try to get this whole thing done. We're very hopeful, like everybody else, that we're going to see a return of grant opportunities in the next few years with another administration change, and we want to be well positioned to take advantage of it. The design here had been going really well, but we think maybe shrinking the core project down, making it more competitive for some of those grant monies that may come our way and hopefully come our way, we'll be able to keep this project going. And with that, well, I missed this slide, but it's reiterating everything I just said, so I don't have to repeat it. With that, that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to hand the microphone back over to Jim. Thank you.
Based on your presentation. My team is going to tell me to make sure that we hold our microphones up so that the virtual audience can hear what we're saying. So anyway, Jonathan, first, thank you for giving a presentation that explained the breadth of everything under your purview and what Mass Highway does every day. I don't think we all consume and the roadway system, but don't always have an appreciation for what's included in it. A lot of responsibility, and I've had jobs similar to yours, and one of the things I hated was distractions, things that sort of come along and consume your time that weren't things you planned for. Why don't we get this one out of the way? You've had to deal with a little bit of a controversial procurement on the service plazas. We saw the announcement last night in about the third inning of the Red Sox game that the selected vendor had pulled out. I know there's things you probably can't share, but what can you share about that? And any ideas on next steps yet, or is it too soon?
So it's too soon to talk about next steps, but let me just say this, is that the governor has been very clear in a lot of her statements that I know everybody in this room has seen, that our commitment, our goal is to deliver the best value for the taxpayers in the Commonwealth, and that's what we're continuing to do here. We're looking at all of our options right now. It was surprising news, I think, for everybody to have that happen, and but we're committed to working through it. And right now we're considering a number of options. It's premature to say what direction we're going to go in, but it's again, we remain committed to ensuring that the taxpayers of the Commonwealth get the kind of service plazas they want and deserve, and that they're clean and they have all the services they want in them. And we're going to continue to work towards that. So I'm hopeful that there's going to be more news on this in the coming days and weeks. But we again are very committed right now, and a lot of people are working hard to make sure that we get what we need out of it for everybody.
Okay, thank you. So we'll put that one aside. Diana, thanks for coming in to join us today. You heard Jonathan's presentation. Thoughts, reactions, what stood out to you in terms of the ways that Jonathan talked about the transportation infrastructure priorities for the Commonwealth, and particularly as it relates to sort of what you think about everyday Springfield and Western Massachusetts?
Well, First of all, thanks for having me. And Jonathan, that was a really terrific presentation. There was a lot of questions were actually answered by some of what you said.
I love it when that happens.
We'll probably still ask them again, but
No,
obviously the investment from the fair share is just a game changer throughout the Commonwealth. That extra infusion of Chapter 90 monies is just so incredibly important to all the communities around the state that we'd like to see more. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I'd like to see, more Chapter 90 funds. But certainly, you spoke to how you're trying to move things faster. That's certainly something that we would like to see. And talking about culverts is music to my ears because they can be really, really a problem out in Western Mass. I'm sure here as well. We have them all over the state. So
I don't know, growing up in Southie and living in Dorchester, if we have a lot of culverts, maybe you'll tell
you
me.
had them, but you probably didn't know they were there. Yeah. I guarantee you had them.
when I was serving in my elected capacity, it was sleepless nights thinking about culverts, as silly as that sounds. But anyway, so the presentation was excellent. I was sitting there thinking, but wow, the western end of the state needs to get on that big list. We need to get on the big project list. And I love the slides you did about Storrow Drive and how you're going to change that. And I couldn't help but think about how like the Springfield waterfront, the riverfront could benefit from a similar project because we have the viaduct there, the raised highways. It's unattractive. It doesn't make you think about stopping in Springfield. So I'm coming up with ideas of that.
Good.
Yeah. I think, that point Diana sort of demonstrates from an economic development perspective, the ways that an investment in something like you're talking about the Springfield waterfront could stimulate a new era in Springfield. I mean, we've seen it here in Boston with some of the big investments that we've made, whether it's Central Artery at the T, that just unlocked potential that we all see. So to that end, it takes money. And thank you for the update on the uses of the fair share money. I was looking around the room. I served on the Financing Commission. I was looking around the room to see if there were any co-conspirators here, but I don't see any. Oh yeah, there's Brian. Brian Kane was there. And he was a co-conspirator. But one of the things that we did in that recommendation, we realized pretty early on that we couldn't sort of solve long-term financing of all the needs that you have, and the T has and others have. So the plan was for dealing with stabilizing things for the first couple of years. The fair share money, as it's been appropriated, it was for education, transportation. It's heavily weighted in the early appropriations towards education. I think it's 58-42 or thereabouts. I'm sure you'll be politic and not take a position on that. But we will about providing additional funds for transportation. But as we go into appropriations of future fair share money, you mentioned culverts. Diana mentioned some projects that they have in mind in Western Massachusetts. What can that money do that would add to that list that you already provided?
Yeah, so it does a lot, and I'll first off let me address. You said about the split, and we obviously advocate for as much of that to go to transportation as we can. I don't know if there's any teachers in the rooms or teachers in their families in the rooms, but as I like to tell my teacher friends, you guys need buses, and that transportation dollars is going to help your buses too. So you should just give it all to us. But that hasn't been a strong argument, unfortunately, up the chain. The legislature does decide it, and again, they have a lot of there's a lot of competing needs. And what fair share does, competing needs is actually the right phrase. As you saw from our program, we have a lot of needs, and when you look at the federal landscape and how those dollars work, they are in predefined buckets. So we are limited on where we can spend that money. What fair share does is it unlocks, because again, it's not tied to those federal strings. We can use that where we have some of those those projects that are not necessarily going to fit in the federal bucket, but that are needed, and we can start addressing them. So that includes some of those new bridges that we're putting money into. Bridges remains our biggest investment because, again, it's our biggest need. But it also means that we can do things with some new intersections, and yes, even things like walking trails that we had from some funding that we lost and really helped to backstop it. So it really is a huge game changer, and what it's really doing for us is allowing those new projects to go forward. And the more we do those kind of projects, the better it helps our entire system.
Yeah. I've often said that I think of transportation and mobility, particularly projects, is a very personal and local issue. We hear a lot about the big projects. We hear a lot about Cape Cod bridges and the Turnpike I-90 work and other big projects. But from a consumer perspective, it's their experience. And you mentioned intersections, you mentioned the local bridges, and so forth. Diana, on that theme, talk about sort of, Western Massachusetts and local projects, and maybe a question for our guest.
We actually had, news break this morning. They closed a bridge in Holyoke today. Indefinitely, I think, was the word they used. So, it's happening. I guess the projects out at our end of the state, if you want a little bit of a laundry list, and I could give you a big one, but I wanted to focus on ones that really had an economic development or housing creation component. So exit 41 off the Pike, the Westfield exit, the work that could be done there to, improve things and really would foster some economic development. Certainly the North End Bridge replacement in Springfield that connects Springfield to West Springfield, getting a lot of traffic these days as people are making their way to the Big E this week, and they're going over that bridge. Improvements to the Long Meadow Curve on I-91. That's a really dangerous stretch of highway, as you know. And even I wanted to really talk about all of Western Mass. So even up north, Route 2 in the Athol area, dangerous stretch of highway. But we also, really I want to bring thanks for the work on Memorial Ave in West Springfield, Route 9 in Hadley, and King Street in Northampton. So those are some projects that are, on our radar because of the implications for economic development, housing creation.
What can you tell the listeners from Western Massachusetts?
Yeah,
projects.
Some of these are on our long range plan. Some of them we're hoping to move forward with. I can tell you, leading up to actually getting the fair share money filed, I spent a lot of time out in Western Mass with the governor and with the secretary, visiting cities and towns, talking to city town managers, understanding what their needs are, and making sure that we were building our program in a way that was going to benefit them. That's in part where the culvert program came out of, but it certainly is where the culvert advocacy came out of. And just really working with you. You have great elected officials out west. I already mentioned Rep. Blay. We also have Joe Comerford and others who are very, very active in transportation and have really been making an effort to make sure that they get as much as they need out there. And I know it's not strictly highway, but we also have a lot going on West East Rail, or Compass Rail as it's called now, making sure that we get that we're moving the ball along to make sure that service gets into place. It's something that's very, very high on the list for the governor's accomplishments that she wants to get done. And it's something, believe me, we feel very, very much within the MassDOT over at their building. And we're really trying to do what we can to make that vision move forward, not just on highway, but on other modes as well.
So Diana has her wish list. You have your mother's Rotary, wife's Rotary. It's called Kosciuszko Circle in Dorchester. I think that you'll be I don't know, beatified by the people of Southie and Dorchester if you do something with that circle.
We are working on it.
Yeah.
I think actually Tom's firm has something to do with it.
Yeah. So, well, he will be too.
Regardless.
I will say the new roundabout that takes you when you come off 91 to go to UMass Amherst, very heavy traffic area, and certainly at certain times of year when the students are coming back. And I was a big naysayer I didn't want that there. It's wonderful. It's great.
So
I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but it's really great.
I'll,
It's made a big difference.
I'll repeat what a traffic engineer in our office who says this. He says, everybody hates a roundabout until they have one of their own. And it's a great phrase. I use it often, and it's true. Most people, once they see it operate, it really does make a big difference.
So I'm going to refer to some of my notes now and go off my own script. First of all, you heard it from Jonathan, and I hope we don't live to regret it, that he said the winters are not as intense. Ugh. I hope that we don't.
I know, I hope I'm jinxing myself.
Yeah, all right.
I should clarify that.
Yeah.
No.
As you would, talking about safety, and thankfully, I guess the good news is we're one of the safest roadway systems in the country. But you're right, one is too many in terms of deaths. As you look at the data and your team looks at the data, I'm sure in partnership with the state police and others, what's the why? I mean, we all probably have some answers in our head in terms of what creates all of that, sort of the accidents and the deaths, but what are the leading causes of some of this?
I think the ones that we see most frequently, and there's a variety of reasons,
Yeah.
obviously. It very rarely comes down to an engineering problem. So
Yeah.
we did see some trends going on where we had too many passing zones on local roads, for example, a couple of years ago, and we put out a directive to start closing those up where it made sense. But the thing that is always common in these deaths is high rates of speed. And then oftentimes distracted driving.
Yeah.
People fooling around with cell phones or what have you, and that's always a recipe for serious consequences.
Yeah, I'm sure all of our observations are that, as we
Yep.
drive by somebody that's doing that, yeah, it's not a surprise.
No. And we work closely with state police when we see these trends, and
Yeah.
they put together a program where it's a combination of education and then also enforcement, where they'll do a targeted area. If we see a hot spot going on in the state, the state police are great about putting more troopers out there, trying to slow traffic down and issuing warnings and tickets as necessary.
So you spoke about, you alluded to west east and now compass rail. I got trained to not say east west and then to say west east, and then they changed it to compass. So I'm going to have to get trained to say that. But anyway, and in your presentation, you talked about congestion. You and I have spoken. I've heard you speak about this before. You are in charge of the highway system, but you understand the interrelatedness of public transportation as it relates to solving some of the congestion issues.
Absolutely.
Talk about that a little bit.
So as I look at it, and I have this now I'm from Central Mass, which means that most people drive a car. There's very few areas where you can just rely exclusively on public transportation. And one of the frequent arguments that I have with people out there, and as you can imagine, I get asked about transportation all the time. But one of the ones that we get all the time is, why are we investing in the T? And it is really a really important investment for us. We're very fortunate to have Phil Lang where he is and making the operational changes he's made. And I'm hoping that longer term, with some of the service improvements that we're talking about with things like Compass Rail and elsewhere, that's going to lead to more people getting off of our highway, getting out of their cars, and getting on those trains, and coming in differently than they currently do with commuting patterns. It's something that's always been a challenge to shift people over, but we find that a lot of them stick once they do, and it's something that we really promote around some of our biggest construction projects, because you don't need much of a difference in mode shift to see the difference in congestion on the roadway. I think probably the one that's the best example of this is Sumner Tunnel, where we worked really closely with the T to add additional Blue Line service. It made sure that the commuter rail had excess capacity, and it really got most of those people off the road on one of the most critical tunnels in Massachusetts, one of the main exits from Logan Airport. And that's when you can see it in real time what a difference that makes. And for people who have to be on the road, and there's plenty of them, tradesmen, others that don't have a transportation, public transportation option, the more you can move off the road, the better it is for them. That's something that we really want to do.
Diana?
Well, do you want to talk about Western Mass congestion? Because we don't have it. That's one of the top reasons why you should live in Western Mass. I mean, obviously we have some traffic that, will bottle up a little bit at morning rush hour, afternoon rush hour, but it's nothing like you experience out here. And I can tell you, it is a quality of life issue. Like, we have a great quality of life. Traffic doesn't really factor into, what we do for the most part. I mean, it's the big E right now. So I mentioned that creates a pretty big, but it really is, it's a benefit of being out where we are. Not to say that we don't have a few pain points, but they're nothing like you experience.
You'll experience today on your way home.
I know I will.
I know you regularly talk to local municipalities about the subject of transportation, roads and highways. What are you hearing?
Money,
Yeah.
right? More money. And yeah, and then the time, and I think we have a question coming up
go ahead.
about, actually, the time it takes to do projects, and we know, the design is important and all of the environmental investigation and regulations and everything, but time is money. And what happens in some of the smaller communities is these projects just keep kind of getting kicked down the road, because as you're, getting ready to do them, the price is just skyrocketing. So really, you did speak to making a little bit more rapid deployment of projects, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, particularly where it might relate to smaller towns.
Yeah, I can tell you that when the governor's made a lot of noise in the last couple of months about making sure we get out of the way, we in government, and that includes you've probably seen her working through the permit process at EEA and DEP and elsewhere. We're not immune from that. We've been working really closely with her staff to identify areas where we can be more efficient across the board, and we hear this frequently. Some of this, and I hate to just blame it because it sounds like a cop out, but it's true. The federal process is onerous. There's a lot of overhead that we have to go through for a federalized project. Going back to fair share and that rapid deployment of bridges, because we do not have to deal with that process, we really are confident that we're going to be able to move those forward. But one of the things that we're working on is really trying to identify where the tripping points are in projects and where we can address them. And if you look at it from and I know, again, many of my colleagues here that are in the private sector that work with us know this, but when you look at projects and see the major tripping points, it's the acquisition of land or right of way. It's the utilities are a huge tripping point for us. And then it's environmental permitting. And some of that stuff we control, and we're working hard on really working more closely with DEP to streamline the permitting process. Some of those other things are going to take more work because, again, they're not entirely in our control. Sometimes it's the federal process. But the last piece that I'll put out too that we see frequently, and I don't want to bore everybody who doesn't already know this, but we have the MPO process, which means regional planning organizations work to promote locally driven projects. A lot of those are not ready. A lot of them have really serious problems with getting community buy-in or other issues. And those projects in particular also are a big tripping point. They slow down, and we're not in control of those either. They're ones that we try to push, but something that I think we're going to start identifying through this review that we're doing is maybe some opportunities to help accelerate those kinds of projects as well.
Great. So let's squeeze in a few audience questions. There's a microphone, so virtual audience. I have plenty, but I want to make sure that people in the room, if you have one. Yep, right over here.
Jonathan, just first of all, congratulations on the great work that you and your team have done over a very long tenure. We all appreciate it. My question is, as the federal funding picture maybe takes a turn for the worse compared to the last few years, are you looking harder at public-private partnerships at all?
So public-private partnerships has been one of these on again, off again things for us in Massachusetts, and I think there's probably space for it where it's not something that we're actively pursuing right now. But, I think as if the funding situation becomes more dire, and right now it's not. Right now, I think the bigger issue in transportation, putting aside the Alston grant that we lost, we haven't lost a ton of just straight federal formula dollars. That's all in place right now. That's continuing. We're confident that reauthorization that's coming up next year is going to go through and it's going to continue. But we're a state that's very fortunate. Again, we put a lot of our own money with the bonding process through fair share and elsewhere. So it's hard to justify like a big public-private partnership, but it's something that I don't want to discount yet. I think if we get to a point where we do lose significant federal funding, we have to take a look at every opportunity, and that's one of the tools in the toolbox.
Just to follow up on that, you mentioned loss of direct funding like I-90. Another federal policy issue is the tariffs and the effect on commodities. How are you
Absolutely
seeing pricing of the how are you thinking?
So this has been something that's been a challenge. Anybody who does estimating with us knows that especially early on in the administration, bids were all over the place. They seem to have stabilized. We've talked to a lot of construction companies who stockpiled a lot of materials in advance, knowing that tariffs were looming. So I'm not sure that we're going to see the full effect of them for several months, but I know they're coming. And there's a lot of different things that we rely on. We have a United States, the federal government has a Buy America clause in our projects for any federalized projects, but there's not a lot of things like fabricators or concrete producers in the United States. And as that Buy America clause that we've always had to use, as tariffs become more increasing and making the foreign goods more expensive, they're doing exactly what people expect, is what the government hopes is that they're going to go to those U.S. firms to get their steel. But now we're competing with them, which means all of our prices are going up. So we expect that we are going to see if the tariffs continue to be in place, we're going to see a big uptick sometime in the next few months.
And I understand we have a question from the virtual audience.
Yes. What is the alignment of the new Sagamore Bridge, and is it east or west of the current bridge? What impacts and land takings on either side?
So there are land taking. I'll kind of go in reverse order because I need to think about where the east or west piece. So there definitely are land takings. We've designed it in a way to minimize those land takings, but they're unavoidable. It's a built-out area. There's definitely some homes out there. We're working really closely with those homeowners, but there's also some parkland and some businesses that are going to be impacted as well that we're working on. I believe that the new alignment, and I'm not sure if it's east or west because I actually think it's more north-south, is the outside, if I recall correctly. I think it's the outside towards the ocean of the existing bridge.
Right.
So we're building it adjacent. Again, the same approach that we use in a lot of our projects to keep traffic moving.
Anyone else? Let's talk about electric vehicles. There's the funding continues to evolve, federal changes, and that. We've talked a lot about the transition to electric vehicles, and how within your planning process are you contemplating the rise in electric vehicles? I know that there's certain mandates that the state has put in place for numbers of electric vehicles and so forth.
Yeah, those mandates are still what our goal is. The NEVI program, which is building out the national EV charging network that we were responsible for in Massachusetts, that was one of the funding sources that was pulled, but through a joint lawsuit that I believe was with at least 20 other states, we were able to recover that money. So we're moving ahead with that program now. I think it's a little bit murkier on right now where EV stands with manufacturers compared to where we were 6 months ago. When we talk to auto manufacturers and even before this happened, before the current federal outlook on it, things that we were told very clearly was that the electric drive train is here to stay. It's something that's simplified. It's something that they are confident in. They can manufacture it easier. Not nearly as many moving parts as you have in a traditional combustion engine and typical drivetrain. So they think that the electric drivetrain is here to stay. I think the part where there's some innovation going on, but also some questions is it going to be powered by a electric motor that you plug in? Is it going to be a hydrogen powered electric motor or something else? And they're all looking at different options right now. The typical classic plug-in EV is what I think we're going to have for some time, but it would not surprise me at all to see hydrogen become something in the next 20 years that is much more popular. Toyota has a lot of stuff going on with it.
Yeah, and when Brian and I get back to work on transportation financing, we have to contemplate the revenue implications of that as opposed to gasoline taxes. Diana, do you want to squeeze in another question before we?
No, I just want to make a comment. This is talking about transportation innovation. This is kind of might sound silly to some people in the room, but my little town, I actually live in the town of Hatfield. We have some special legislation pending to actually legalize golf carts on our streets. There was a lot of farms. The farmers were using golf carts. They started going and visiting neighbors with them, and next thing you know, lots of people in town are zooming around on them. Of course, they're illegal on most roads. But in conjunction with our police chief, we actually put together a plan and filed this special legislation. It obviously won't work in every town, but you're talking about that's slightly innovative, a lot less wear and tear on the roads, and certainly keeping vehicles off the road. So yes, I sort of live in a Hallmark movie where people drive around in golf carts. It's very cute and visit their neighbors, but it is kind of a strange and innovative solution, really, to maybe that it can work in some communities. We've heard Hatfield would be the first, but there's some communities on the Cape also considering it. It's not the solution.
Yeah.
We're not going to solve everything with golf carts, but hey.
Not sure the neighborhoods of Boston. I'm trying to visualize that. But some of the comments and some of the things we talked about today demonstrate the work that Diana and I do together, which is developing an appreciation for the types of issues that communities are dealing with and how they think about transportation. I made a little fun about the culverts, and it's very important to you and your communities. And there's other issues that are important to different parts of the state, but to make the state work the way we want it to, we have to understand each other's needs and make sure that they're supported. So thanks again for coming in. I'm going to give you the last word, and maybe it's a bit of an opportunity to wish and dream a little bit and vision a little bit like, we all like to do. Looking out into the future, if you could sort of think about what's the state of the Commonwealth's roads and bridges, what would it look like? What would the big unconstrained thinking Jonathan say about, what it looks like?
If I had my way and we had unlimited funds and we
Yes,
could do what we want, I obviously fix all the bridges we have. But I think you also need to envision a future that is something like you see in like some of these sci-fi movies like iRobot, where you start getting more interconnected vehicles, more interconnected cars and trains and other modes of transportation that's far more equitable for everybody across the state, regardless if they're a small town or a big city, so that you can get to wherever you need to go quickly and efficiently. And I think there is opportunity for that. I'm not sure if it's going to happen in my lifetime, but I think that, again, some of those things that were envisioned in some of those sci-fi movies and books is not too far from where reality's going.
Well, Jonathan, in thanking you for coming today, let me add a note of thanks on behalf of the business community from across the Commonwealth. I know that you and the team at Mass Highway, Mass Dot, do an incredible job every day. The breadth of what you do every day, you covered today. And I think that we as consumers and business people and residents don't say thank you enough. So please extend a big thank you from the business community to your entire team. And please join me in thanking Jonathan for being with us today. Yeah. Good stuff. Right. And thank you all for being here.